Hi everyone, I'm Ryan. It's been a while since I posted like a serious video that's like with me in it. A lot of reasons for that. A, I've been on vacation at Disneyland. B, Xenoblade Future Redeemed came out. And C, Tears of the Kingdom leaked. So, I have been doing all those things. I do want to talk about Future Redeemed, but at this point it would just become a full video on it. I'm going to save it for Xeno Explained, so my thoughts on that will be in there eventually. Shorthand version, I loved it. It made Xenoblade 3, the entire experience, my favorite game of all time. But we're not talking about Xenoblade today, because Tears of the Kingdom is here. I'm going to be trying to post this on the actual release day, but I have been playing this game for a little over a week. It leaked, and I've been playing on my modded Switch. So I'm going to be showing footage of this game as I talk about it. I'm literally just going to be playing because I love playing this game. There's the shorthand of my review. I love this game, but I want to talk about it a little bit deeper. I want to give some context because I'm pretty outspoken in how I feel about Breath of the Wild. And I'm pretty outspoken in how I wanted this game to be and how I feared this game would be. So we're going to get into that. First and foremost, context. This is a Tears of the Kingdom review. I'm going to be talking about as many aspects as I have experience with. That is going to, of course, include as far as I've gotten in the game. I won't be able to talk about many things because I haven't gotten to them yet. So I may make like a short addendum video when I have finished it to like round out my thoughts. Second, this is not scripted, so I'm going to be kind of going off the cuff. If I make any inaccurate statements kind of off the cuff, I'm going to try not to, but, you know, with being not scripted, it might happen. So if I make something dumb, definitely call it out because I want to feel dumb. I want to learn. That's what I meant to say. And third, I'm going to be showing, like I said, I'm going to be showing footage. I'm going to be showing footage of a file that is, I would say, about halfway through the story. I've completed... I don't want to say half, because I don't know exactly if it's half, but I've completed 2 dungeons. I've done about half of the shrines, and I've done a very, very minor amount of side quests. That's gonna be like the most of my playtime. And there's more qualifiers for progress that I'm not talking about right off the bat because they are kind of spoiler-filled. So if you don't want to see any footage of anything beyond what's been in the trailers, don't watch this. With that out of the way, I'm also going to give another context kind of layer here for this review. I tend to like Zelda games for a few reasons. And usually at the top of those lists are story and characters, music, world design, and then at the bottom is kind of like gameplay because you'd know what you're getting to with the Zelda gameplay if that is like untouched. You enjoy it, whereas all the other parts have varying levels of if they're good or not. So that's typically what I focus on with Zelda, and I know that's not everybody's Zelda, which is perfectly fine. I recognize that the things that I look for in Zelda are directly responsible for why I didn't enjoy Breath of the Wild as much as other people do. I do like Breath of the Wild a whole heck of a lot. It is a very fun game. I did a recent replay through. I didn't finish it because I started a little too late. So I liked what I played through again. I liked it even better since I didn't have the expectations that I had the first time going through. So it's a very well-made game. It's a very well-designed game. And what I played, I enjoyed. It was just missing a lot of what I like Zelda for. And it hurt because Zelda is such like a huge series. It was such like an instrumental series for my childhood. And to have a game in it where it's such a huge game for a lot of people, it's like considered to be people's like favorite game of all time, like the best game of all time. To not feel that way, it sucks. It feels like I'm on the outside. And I know as of late, there's been more people who agree with that sentiment of how they feel about it. And I agree with some of it, and I feel some of it is just like being a contrarian. So it's hard. It's hard when you're on the outside of things. And with Tears of the Kingdom, they spent so long not talking about this game. This game took like 7 years to make, 6 years to make, and they barely showed anything for the first 5 years, I would say, 5 to 5.5, where we would get like one snippet that was like 30 seconds long. It barely showed you anything. There was a focus on the sky. Okay. For 99% of this game's release cycle, it just looked like Breath of the Wild 2. Like exactly like just more Breath of the Wild. And it worried me that I would now be going almost a decade where I didn't enjoy Zelda as much as I used to. Like I've gone back and played Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess and all that. Like I'm able to find joy in Zelda still, and that's part of why I'm okay, because like the old games are always still there. But obviously there is a part of me that wants to be excited for the new Zelda. There's a part of me that wants to have new experiences with Zelda and make new memories with Zelda on the same or on a proportionate scale that I used to. And I just had this... I have this conversation constantly with Pokemon because it's a lot of the same, whereas I'm on the inside, like I'm enjoying Pokemon's recent output, while I'm also critical of the things that aren't as good. And here I feel like I'm on the exact tonal opposite, where I mean I'm enjoying the output, but I'm definitely a lot more critical of what I don't like. Then things started leaking. I was so ambivalent on this game. I was so, like, not even excited for it. I was, like, negative 1% excited for it because it was going to be the same. Then things started leaking. And we saw the art book leak. And that's where my excitement for this game kind of really began. Because there were so many things in that art book that excited me, that hinted at things that I wished were in Breath of the Wild were coming back and being, like, a focus. Characters, new environments, the possibility of dungeons returning. These things were so instrumental for me, and they helped carry into the gameplay demonstration, which was cool, although it was annoying that they showed the kind of reused Breath of the Wild music, which was still like a bit of a sore spot, because Breath of the Wild's music is very nice when you're playing it, but for me, I don't remember more than like 2 tracks outside of playing it. I tend to go for more melodic music in what I enjoy, and there are exceptions, obviously. Zora's Domain, Rito Village, but again, those are remixes of older tracks. They're nice remixes, and I don't fault them for remixing because Metroid does that all the time, and I love that there. So there wasn't a lot of new unique tracks that really grabbed me in Breath of the Wild. But all that to say, I was optimistically cautious at this point, and then the game came out, I tried it, I streamed it in my Discord server, or not my Discord server, but in a server that I'm with friends, because obviously I didn't want to get ban-hammered by Nintendo, because that was happening. People were streaming it on Twitch. We don't need that here. My first channel already went down for copyright nonsense with Sonic Frontiers. We don't need that here. But I played it alongside 2 of my friends, and then a few of my other friends watched. And I have to say that was some of the most fun I've had with Zelda in a very long time. I also had some critiques, but overall, my experience was very positive, and that has gone through, and I think I'm ready now to talk about kind of more of my in-depth thoughts as I kind of just play the game in the background. Okay, so this game is big, and Breath of the Wild was big. And I say those two statements with different intonations, because Breath of the Wild was, I affectionately call it open world the game featuring Link from the Legend of Zelda series, whereas I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Those two, to me, are very, very different but very important distinctions. I don't even know where I want to go right now, to be quite honest. I guess I'll go to the Zora spot. I'm going to be talking about the gameplay as I'm talking about it. So if you want like a chill review with gameplay on the side, here you go. There were Zelda elements in Breath of the Wild, obviously. There are quite a lot of Zelda elements in Breath of the Wild. There are like Koroks, and there's like the Master Sword, and there's Zelda and Ganon. And you have like all these references to past Zelda games. Like the game is chock full of references. So I'm not saying that it's not a Zelda game, but do I not have any? I do. It's definitely a Zelda game, but to me, it feels like no matter how much like Zelda stuff they chalk into it, based on how they chose to present everything and how you interact with everything. Oh, shoot! Hello! This was going to lead into a point I was just going to make. Floor Masters are here. They're like Gloom Floor Masters, or... yeah. My point... oh, hi. God, I'm never going to make my point. My point was that there were so many things that I felt were missing from the recipe or not presented in the way I would hope in the recipe, that even though I'm being shown Zelda things and I'm in a world of Zelda things, it doesn't feel Zelda enough to me for Breath of the Wild. And part of that was the enemy variety. There weren't a lot of enemies. It was largely just kind of like a reimagining of the first Zelda, where you had a set few enemies that just got upgraded versions, and then upgraded versions, and then upgraded versions. And then you had like the style versions of them, which for Breath of the Wild was fine, I guess. But, you know, Zelda is famous for a lot of really unique enemy designs, and there was a lot that was missing. This game brings back a lot of them. Floor Masters are here. Gibdos are back, and they're terrifying. And we'll get into that in just a moment. Also, I have some materials from here. What else is back? Likes are back. There's just so many like classic Zelda enemies that are back in this game, and they're in addition to every other enemy that was in Breath of the Wild. And every enemy that was in Breath of the Wild has like a design difference. They have a design changes. They're a bit more menacing, even though some of like obviously the Bokoblins are, you know, they're Bokoblins, so they're not going to be doing too much to you. But they integrate so well, and they just stack on top of what was there before, and it works. Like, you see, I think like is the first new enemy you come across, or have the chance to come across, outside of the Zonai mech things, which are like our replacement guardians. And I smiled so big at seeing it, and I was trying not to, because my friends who were also playing, they were watching my stream, and I was watching theirs, so we were like co-streaming. But I also didn't want to like point it out specifically, because I wanted them to have that chance to see like, oh, it's a like. Like, it's been since, I don't even remember if they were in Skyward Sword, so if they weren't, then at least Twilight Princess. And even then, I think it was just those like bomb versions in the Forest Temple, so like maybe even just Phantom Hourglass Spirit tracks, since they've like really been in the series. So So it was really cool seeing them. It was really cool seeing like Gyptos again, and that is just like a small part of how this game has A, surprised me, and B, felt more... Oh... I didn't want to go. I was following that market thinking it was for the Zoro's domain. It's because I have the wrong quest on. So let's do that now. And now let's fix this by going to the actual place we want to go to. This game feels more Zelda-like than Breath of the Wild. I'm making this point very long, but it's so important to me. And you see this in your prologue is very Breath of the Wild-esque, similar to the Great Plateau. It's very similar to Breath of the Wild, but there's an opening cutscene. There's continuity, first and foremost. There's so much to establish the story that I know Breath of the Wild was intending to just throw you out into the open, but I think this just works so much better for my tastes. And I said it when I was streaming it, but there's more story in the first 5 minutes of this game than the entirety of Breath of the Wild. And I mean story in the sense of like the main plot that you are playing the game for. Obviously, Breath of the Wild has a lot of lore, which I love lore in games. Call me Matthew Patrick Game Theory because I love lore. But I feel like, for me, lore works best when it complements the story that you're playing through. I feel like there are a lot of games recently that have gone the way of like Five Nights at Freddy's style, where lore is the selling point. And I feel like a lot of those games, for me, don't hold my interest because I'll learn a lot of lore about games that I don't really have any intention of playing. And then I'll get to like the story, I'll be like, oh, what's this game's story? And the story is like barely anything. And it's because the focus is all put on the lore. For me, as soon as I see that, the lore just like empties out of my head like a drain pipe. I can't, and I fully admit this is also most likely me. Let's see what these guys are talking about. Sorry, a bunch of treated for note. They used up all the splash fruit. Well, I have tons of those. When I get off of this topic, I'll kind of explain more of what I'm doing so you have some context. But lore is like a sauce if you are making a sandwich. It's a really good sauce. Like, let's say lore is your barbecue sauce. Like, barbecue is a really, really solid sauce. If you have a sandwich and you're putting your bread, and then you get... Let's say the bread is like the gameplay. You kind of need the gameplay to have a sandwich. You need a gameplay to have a game. And that gameplay can be clicking through buttons like a visual novel. I just want to state that. I love visual novels. But a game needs to exist for it to be a game. So you have your bread. And then you have your meat, which is your story, your plot. I just realized I did not listen to what they were saying. Oh, multitasking. I have a quest. Sludge-covered statue. Got it. I know what to do. Lore is the sauce you put on top of that meat. It enhances your meat. God, out of context, me is gonna regret saying that. And then you have other things. You have, like, side quests, replayability, music, art direction, characters, kinds of deals. Like, they all go into the sandwich. I might need to do another one. Nope, don't need to do another one. And... let's see what... Oh, it's Sidon. Oh, and it's me! Sludge. Statue of Simple Hope Resort. It's very precious to us. Thank you so much for cleaning it up. It's literally me. They're gonna realize. Okay, so I feel like games that hardcore focus on lore can work. And they obviously do work for a lot of people. So none of what I'm saying is an objective, what must be in video games, but more so what I tend to prefer to consume, both in the game sense and both in the sandwich sense. Games that primarily focus on lore tend to be, if we were using the same analogy, a sandwich that starts with bread, then has like maybe a little nickel size worth of like bologna, if that is the meat you so chose. If we're gonna go barbecue sauce, I'd say maybe chicken. We'll do chicken, like a little nickel's worth, and then you just have a huge jar of barbecue sauce. And there'll be other aspects. You'll have like neat art direction, so you'll still have like your lettuce, your cheese, your tomatoes, maybe another dressing if you so choose. But when you put that top bun on there, I feel like you've made a mess that is also too much sauce. I feel like Breath of the Wild has too much sauce. And not enough meat. Because there's a lot of bread. There is a Subway sandwich full of bread on that sandwich. There's maybe filings of chicken. Not even like a slice. They're like filings. Like you took it to a shredder and you got maybe like a centimeter or like a milligram of chicken. And you got lore for days. There are so many lore videos on YouTube where they scrape through so many of Breath of the Wild's innermost secrets, and they come up with really cool theories, and I love watching every single one of them. But at the same point, Breath of the Wild's story is so nothing burger that it's really hard to also care at the end of the day. I'm talking so much about Breath of the Wild because it's super instrumental in comparing it to Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is not going to be out-storying something like Xenoblade or your Metal Gears or your Final Fantasies, because Zelda, at the heart of it, isn't always huge on the plot. It's largely about your adventure, I get that. But previous Zelda games have supported your adventure with the plot. And I think Tears of the Kingdom is a really, really strong return to form in that sense. It starts off with a really good cutscene. It reintroduces you to Zelda, it reintroduces you to Link, Breath of the Wild Link, and it's really cool because you start off with max hearts, you have your fully powered up Master Sword, no Hylian Shield, very, very interestingly enough, and it shows this is a continuation, this is straight up a sequel, you're continuing your adventure, and then you get Metroided, where you lose all that power you had, and you have to like earn it back. Okay, that's not working. What's also cool is you immediately meet two very important characters in your journey. You meet Ganondorf, or Mummydorf, before he's become like rehydrated, and who leagues is infinitely better than Calamity Ganon, because Calamity Ganon isn't a character, he's just a force. He's a villain in the sense that a volcanic eruption is a villain, which in some games is perfectly valid, perfectly fine. But for Zelda, you typically want a being, a character, some agent with active willpower to go against. And Calamity Ganon, I feel like, was not that. And here we have an active character who is impeding our journey and doing direct damage to Link, and then is also responsible for Zelda falling into the pit that she falls into, as seen in that trailer. So already you have stakes. You lose what you had before, you lose the friend you made along the way, and you have someone you can blame it on. And then immediately you meet the spirit who takes kind of King Rome's place in this game, of Rauru, the Light Sage, who is also a Zonai, which Zonai as a concept is cool because it's a payoff to those who did theorize about Breath of the Wild so much, and I will applaud Breath of the Wild for foreshadowing that so hard. But it really pays off here, and it also pays off on Zelda series history, and is really cool because it establishes the new powers that Link has with the new abilities, with the Ultra Hand, Fuse, Recall, and Ascend, which, I'm gonna say it, I think are infinitely better than Breath of the Wild's abilities tenfold. The only one that I miss is the Bomb rune, just because having free bombs was always nice. But there are ways to mitigate that. But getting into gameplay for one split second, these new abilities have made me feel like how other people feel about Breath of the Wild. The amount of things you can creatively do with these abilities is staggering. And you can do a lot with the Breath of the Wild runes, but I think the skill floor to skill ceiling was way different than the skill floor to skill ceiling for these abilities. Fuck you. Because I would always see clips on Twitter of someone doing this crazy thing with the Breath of the Wild abilities. And I'd say, wow, that's really cool. But I never thought that I could do it myself. Because there are all these super crazy high-tech tricks, and a lot of them weren't intended. A lot of them are using like exploits that are very risky to perform. Risky in the sense of the chance of you slamming into a wall and killing yourself is very high. And they were very precise. But they were not something that you could ask the layman to do. And so it was very intimidating. And so I never really felt that thrilled with Breath of the Wild's abilities outside of the usual, like, I don't know, use stasis to knock something far away. Use magnesis to launch something up in the air. And it sucks because I realized that there was so much potential for these things, but I either didn't have the motivation or the drive or the inherent, like, oh, what if I did this? I mean, I did for some things. Like, some shrines I was able to, like, shenanigan my way through. And it was cool doing it, but it didn't happen nearly enough. Yeah, so it didn't happen nearly enough as I would have expected based on how everybody seemed to be talking about it. Because I know a lot of people who saw all these tools and were like, okay, I can control, like, the entire world now. So I guess I just had much bigger expectations for what I would have been motivated to do with it. And I know that's a personal problem, but at the end of the day, it affected how I resonated with those tools that they gave. Tears of the Kingdom's abilities, it clicked so hard that I feel like I'm doing some really crazy things. And I typically don't do crazy things in a game unless I'm, like, really confident in my abilities. A few games that I will go out of my way to try new and wacky stuff for will be Mario Sunshine, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and even then, it's the very tame versions of these things. So to have that sort of motivation in me now to want to try something like that feels really good. I'll say right out the gate, Recall as an ability, I'm seeing people talk about online, and even when I was kind of browsing the 4chan leak threads before as I was getting the game, because I was curious of what other people were thinking, and obviously there wasn't a good avenue to find that information. Recall was the ability that I felt was most slept on, and it's nuts how amazing it is, especially when paired with Ultra Hand. And obviously I'm not showing it off right now because there's not a lot of objects around me, but the amount of shenanigans I've been able to pull with Recall and Ultra Hand, really nuts, really nuts. And it's just something you're going to see to believe. And if Tears of the Kingdom doesn't resonate with you gameplay-wise in the way that it does me, I fully expect that, because I was like that with Breath of the Wild. But if it does, and you see the things that they give you and you go, oh shit, I think you'll feel about this game the same way that I do, or at least a very similar way. Now, back to story, because I just wanted that as a small tangent that I'll go into deeper as I'm actually doing fun things. I've really enjoyed the enhanced level of storytelling and characters that we have this time around. Obviously, once you actually get to the gameplay section of the tutorial Sky Island, there's not a lot of story, but there's a lot of interesting lore. And I feel like the Great Plateau did not have really any lore. It had a little bit of story with the king. So it tried to give something for Breath of the Wild, but I feel like because Breath of the Wild's story is so nothing burger, it ended up failing. Since Tears of the Kingdom is giving us some lore with already improved story, I think it works so much better. And then when you actually get down to the surface, and you actually meet characters that live in towns, more than just like 2 towns in the whole game, but characters that live lives. And I'm trying to frame this specifically because characters do exist in Breath of the Wild, and they do live lives, and they do exist in this world. It's just... It all ties back into the story, where I'm not going to care as much about the characters if I'm not caring as much about the story. And here... the fuck are you doing? I'll pause my point for the moment as I see what Sidon's up to. Hey buddy, what's going on? Sidon is one of the points that's... he was good in both Breath of the Wild, and he seems to be good here. Whatever could have transpired. It's hard to describe why I think the characters work better in this one, but it's all how they're used. And as soon as you get to the surface, you're greeted by a lot of the main characters from the previous game, like Pura and Robbie and the new assistant Joshua, and they're given like character bios, and they're very immediately important in the story. They're wondering what happened with Zelda, and you speak to them throughout the game, and you deal with them throughout the game. And it also helps that there are so many side quests and side adventures in this game that tie into the main story and help you learn more about the reasons why you're doing the main story. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, it feels like the side quests were helping out the people, and they were like related to the main story in the fact that they existed in the same world, but they really didn't help you in a story sense of understanding the divine beasts, understanding the calamity. It was all about understanding the people that existed after. Interesting. Like here, we have a character profile for Sidon. It tells us about him, and it gives us a little bit of backstory, has a little character art, and you can keep track of the characters, like the important characters this time around, because they're important. They're important to the story, and there's Roru. And they even... they made a differentiator of side quests and side adventures. Side adventures are kind of like larger scale, multiple tiered side quests that do relate to the main story. You learn more about how Zelda's been missing and how she's also been spotted, and how that's strange, because if she is around, then why isn't she coming to say, like, coming to us? Like, there are mysteries that relate, and the side quests give you more information that the main story doesn't, or doesn't at this time. Where's this guy at? The Zor historian Giotto to investigate ancient documents. Speaking of Giotto at Toto Lake. Alright, Toto Lake. Let's find Toto Lake. Cow Lake. There's Lulu. It's okay, we got this. Toto. I know there's going to be Breath of the Wild historians that'll be like, obviously Toto Lake is south of Mikau Lake, but honestly, I ain't that hardcore into Breath of the Wild's geography, so it's going to take me a moment to find Toto Lake. But while I do... Maybe that's it? Put a little thing there. There are multiple tiers of side quests, and they're spread all throughout the world. So no matter where you go, you feel like you're contributing to the story, you're learning about the story, and you're playing an active participant in finding out more about the story. And so far, the story has been neat. Whereas Breath of the Wild, I feel like the only way you're learning about the story is if you're doing the 4 main dungeons and then going to fight Ganon. And then searching out the memories. Those are like the 2 things that are interconnected. Whereas here we have the dungeons. Oh, friend. Where are you at? Where's your friend? Right there? That's easy. These guys are cute because they have backpacks that are too big for them. In this game, we have dungeons. You have the side adventures, which can be done... Any character can have a side adventure. I don't know how many side adventures there are, but it's not limited to, like, oh, only the main named characters do, or, like, main multiple... You know, like, it's a normal NPC can start a side adventure. Versus just like, oh, it's only going to be, like, Sidon, or Pyrrha, or Robbie. I'm going to clear out some of this gook. Then you have there are memories in this game, like Breath of the Wild's, but unlike learning about the past, which I think was done more effectively in Age of Calamity, you know, timeline shenanigans aside, here you're learning about, like, the very beginning of Hyrule. Roru was Hyrule's first king. And the woman who kind of looked like Hylia that people saw in trailers, that's Sonia, his wife, the first queen of Hyrule. And then you learn, like, Zelda is actually in the past, and they foreshadow it pretty cool when you're in the island tutorial sanctuary. Interesting. Why is there a balloon here? Is it for up there, maybe? Because there is this, but there's no source of fire, but I can create a source of fire if need be. But also, I could just do the tower. I kind of want to check that out real quick before I go to that lake. Where's the tower? The tower's right here. Yeah, so you have memories, which are, I think, easier to find. Because I have never been a fan of, here's a picture of a remote location in this huge world, go find it. Because I always end up just looking them up online because I don't have that kind of time. Again, personal problem, but you find the memories in this time by like Aztec-like glowing geoglyphs, which is really cool. They're very noticeable. You can see them as you're flying around. Towers in this game are also a lot cooler because they launch you into the sky. And lets you get a full view of where you're going. I guess I maybe want to go... I kind of want to go over here before I go to the one spot. Getting sidetracked in this game is very much like Breath of the Wild. It is very easy to do. But yeah, there's those, and I keep getting sidetracked. You sign up for this. You know, this is the video that it is. There's all those, and then you have the lore on top, which supports everything else. And then, amongst everything else, you have the entire sky, which, granted, is smaller than kind of what I feel was implied in trailers. There's not a crazy amount of stuff to do in the sky, but there is a whole underground, which I've done maybe... I've explored the underground for probably close to 10 hours or so of my gameplay time, and this is what I've managed to uncover. There's a whole lot of the underground, and granted, it's not as like side quest heavy, but it's huge and exploration heavy. And the very nature of it being this huge underground cavern inherently shows a side of Hyrule that we haven't seen before. Oh, it's one of you. Fuck. This is a cool new boss. Or mini-boss. It's a flux construct. And figuring out how to beat it the first time was really cool. We saw this in the trailer. Are you still following me? You are. So I'm gonna do a little eyeball. Bullshit. They died at one hit, so that's fine. I'm gonna use a bomb arrow quick. Get a little early damage on it. So it's a giant block monster. And you want to hit the one block right there. Oh, there's also a chest. Shit. You use Ultra Hand to like shake it free. And I thought that was really cool. And then it has like a different phase where it goes into a giant Mario Party minigame. Gotta get to it fast. And then it'll have a third form where it goes in the sky. With this one, I like to use one of the champion's powers here. Fuck. Let's see. Let me heal real quick. So Riju's power here gives you like a lightning field, sort of similar to Urbosa's. And Tulin's here is sort of similar to Rivali's, except for it's a horizontal gust, as opposed to a vertical one. I haven't seen Sidon's or Yunobo's yet, because I assume Yunobo's is the last one. Yeah, I guess we'll just throw that on the ground to show it we don't care for its nonsense. Alright. They also recharge a lot faster, which is really nice. And then wait for that to do that. Almost done, just one more. Take another one out for funsies. You can shake it if you can reach it, but I figure I don't ever have enough time to. Where'd Ritu go? The reason real quick on why they're looking all shadow-like is because when you... neat. Let's... Can I get it? Can I get it? No, but I can do this. There we go. When you beat the dungeon, you are traveling with the actual character. They're like a partner, and it's really cool. And then when you beat the dungeon, you get their vow of sorts. And they... Did I have a rusty halberd at some point? When did I pick that up? I don't know, but I'm going to power it up. Epic. Oh, and there's this chest. They give you their vow, so you can use their power at any point, and you can have all of them out at once. Oh, okay, and this is a sage's will. It seems like we can power up the powers? Question mark? If you get 4 of those, I've only gotten 2. They've both been in the sky, so I assume that's where the rest of them are going to be. But yeah, the new champions, or the descendants of the champions, are actively involved in the story. They come along with you for their area, so we're going to be pairing up with Sidon as we go through the water temple, which is right up there. Which is funny, tied to the shenanigans aspect of Recall and Ultra Hand, I was able to break into the water temple early. Unfortunately, there is a story thing you need to activate to like begin exploring it fully for it to count. But it was cool that I was able to like physically get there without needing to even begin the Zora side quest stuff. All right, I'm gonna stop side venturing now. It's gonna take me a while to get to this spot to investigate it, so I'm just gonna teleport there. I'm gonna be smart. And I'm actively enjoying just kind of screwing around, slightly moving further in story progress, because I know that based on dungeons of past, this one's going to be cool. Because also, yeah, dungeons are back. And while I've yet to see them all, I've really enjoyed the 2 that I've gone through. I've gone through the Rito dungeon, the Wind Temple, and while I feel like it was as good as the Divine Beasts, I was like a little saddened that it was practically just a Divine Beast, but not in name. But I liked that it had a visually unique identity, and it had a unique boss. Although that boss was torn to shreds because I found the exploit that made it extremely easy. But it was very cool looking. And we've actually seen it in a trailer, so that's fun. And the Gerudo dungeon, the Thunder Temple, was very cool. It reminded me very much of a Twilight Princess-esque dungeon, and I think it was really cool that they start the dungeon by showing you the boss. You fight the boss, and then it runs away, and then you go through the dungeon to like face it again. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if I'm gonna make it up here. Actually, if I can get up here, I can. The only thing I did like about the Wind Temple was getting to the Wind Temple was practically part of the dungeon, I consider it. But so I did like that aspect. You're traveling up these huge gusts of wind. Come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Shenanigans, further shenanigans. But, okay, this is fine. And based on what I saw of the Water Temple, it reminded me kind of like a Skyward Sword dungeon visually. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it entails. I don't think I'll be able to get to it in this little review section because I don't want this to be super long. But I think story-wise, I think I'm set. I don't really want to talk about any more specifics than that because I think it'll just be speculating at this point. And this isn't really like a theory video. But gameplay, I kind of talked about it quite a bit. But I think the gameplay balance is good because it's everything Breath of the Wild did good. Because, again, I really like Breath of the Wild's gameplay. I feel like it was the strongest part of it. And I think that gameplay is much better integrated into the full recipe. I think this is a much more cohesive sandwich, as it were. There are 152 shrines that are all entirely new, with the exception of... Let's see, I'm going right there. With the exception of those shrines where the way to unlock the shrine was the shrine's puzzle, and they just kind of give it to you as a freebie. Those are here still, but obviously the puzzles to unlock them are unique. So there's no at least as far as I've seen, and I've completed about, I think it was like 68. Ooh, this is nice. These pieces will fall from the sky, and they are good at getting your height back up, if you recall them. Oh wait, I want that mushroom. Stem mushrooms are godsend. I've completed like 68 to 70. I can't remember the exact number. We'll see it on the next loading screen of shrines. So I've seen a very decent chunk of them. And I like them. I think they're honestly better than Breath of the Wild shrines. I think they're more visually interesting. And B, I think the puzzles have been more complex. There have been a few Breath of the Wild puzzles that I'd have to like look up later because I didn't have the desire to throw my head against a wall. So I feel like they were a little too unclear about what they were trying to like convey. But here I've done every single shrine I've come across. There was 2 that I had like set aside for later when I had a brain blast. But all in all, I think they've upped the difficulty on them a little bit, but it's fair. It's very fair, and it allows for more shenanigans ways to solve shrines. And the dungeon puzzles were also really neat. I really enjoyed them. The Thunder Dungeon is all about light and like mirror shield redirecting. That kind of thing in this kind of engine, which is really cool. And the Wind Temple didn't have any like crazy standout puzzles, but it was kind of like how exploring Vah Meadow was cool, because you could, I think it was even cooler than Vah Meadow because you could really explore around the entire dungeon at your leisure, and it was kind of finding specific points in that dungeon to interact with. But the Gerudo dungeon was definitely the standout so far. I found Toto Lake. The reason why I couldn't find it before is because it's no longer a lake, or rather it is, but it's contaminated, because the whole Zora storyline so far is that there's the sludge pooling down. So I didn't recognize the green as polluted water versus not water. And that's another thing that I am liking about this world. It's obviously it's the same Hyrule after some time, but it's been changed by time, and it's been changed by quite a noticeable amount that the trailers really didn't make it seem. Obviously, since it's so big, there's a large chunk that is not changed, and when you get to those points, you'll be like, wow, I'm literally just playing Breath of the Wild. But then you'll immediately go to a new spot and be like, oh, okay, this is new. Like when I first got down to the surface, I found a Bokoblin enemy camp, like the giant skull rock things, and I'm like, wow, this is exact, like I'm playing this just as I'm playing Breath of the Wild. And then immediately I found a chasm to the underground where I'm like, whoa, okay, I want to try to shenanigan my way down into this. And then I went to the Hyrule Castle and tried to use some shenanigans that I almost got to the bottom there. Before getting the paraglider, because you can go quite a distance through this game without getting the paraglider if you don't do specifically the main story, which is cool because it made me rethink how I explore. Oh, I want to get this guy. So I think it was definitely intentional to have some areas be similar and then some areas be not. Because I think this game, at the end of the day, is a sequel to Breath of the Wild, but it's also like a remake of Breath of the Wild. Like, this is what Breath of the Wild should have been, in my view. And now that I've played Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom, like, I played this world with the sky, with the underground, with the dungeons, plus with all the shrines, I don't know if I can ever go back to Breath of the Wild. Like, I don't know if I can go back to just having an inherently inferior to me game. And, ooh, that's cool. I guess that kind of just like solidifies my feelings on it as well. So, kind of in short, if you've enjoyed Breath of the Wild, you're gonna go nuts over this game. Because it's literally Breath of the Wild and then some. I heard one reviewer say that it's like basically just double the size. It's double the size in most things. Overworld, yes. Side quests, I'd say probably yes. Shrines, I mean, it's the same size as Breath of the Wild plus all the DLC. And it's all new. And there's a Thunder Gleeok. I'm not going to touch that. Where's my marker? I literally went straight past it. Okay. And story is infinitely more. I don't want to say infinitely. It's much more. So, overall, I would consider this game like one of the greatest games of all time. And as I've been playing it, I've been considering it as one of my new favorite Zelda games. Right now, Majora's Mask is my current favorite. Ocarina of Time is right behind it. Then it's Twilight Princess. And then I think I have this game paired with Skyward Sword. But I think by the end of Tears of the Kingdom, it might beat out Twilight Princess. I don't know if it'll ever beat out Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask because of nostalgia. But I think that's where it's going to land. Which is nuts because Breath of the Wild isn't even in my top 5. For how I resonate with it. It's obviously a very great game. A very great game. But I think this is just infinitely the better game. Because it does everything that it does and more. It just does more. And it shows very confidently that it prioritizes every aspect of what makes a Zelda game a Zelda game. Okay. I'm literally doing so bad at understanding the story that I keep hyping up. When you spoke with the historian Giotto, he told you discovered an old Zora slate. There's information related to the sky written there, but the slate is broken and the full meaning is unclear. Oh, can I recall? Can I... Oh no, I'm probably going to find the slate somewhere and then fuse it back to the... Okay. Where is... Oh, it's right here. See, that's cool. Like, immediately, I'm like, oh, can I do this? That is, like, exactly the thing I'm talking about. Here we go. Even just things like throwing materials to affect the environment changes dramatically how the game operates. And I'll do one more right here. And then... Boom! And this fits... Let's do this. Boom! There we go. What is this? The stone slate! I can hardly believe my eyes. So, yeah, I think those are my thoughts. I also will say, music in this game is very similar in design philosophy as Breath of the Wild. As in, there are tracks that are straight lifted from Breath of the Wild, and I think those are the weakest tracks of the game, because I think it's kind of lazy. I mean, that's just me saying that, but there are tracks that are unique for this game, like the shrine music and the Battling Zonai music, which is really good. The overworld themes and how they remix based to show time has changed is really good. The Zora's Domain theme is really good in this game. Rito Village is really good in this game. Like, I'm actively taking more notice of the music, and that's something that I just could not, and I wanted to, but I could not do with Breath of the Wild. So music on point, story on point, characters on point, gameplay on point, the amount of new content on point, and bosses so far have been pretty on point. Gerudo boss is a nightmare in design, and I love it. It's a horror monstrosity, and it was hard too. So that's my thoughts. If you like Zelda, but felt burned out by Breath of the Wild, that it wasn't much Zelda, get this game. I think it's worth the $70. I do also want to say, I should have said this way earlier, but even though I am playing the leaked version of this game, like getting it for free, this game has been purchased. So it is worth $70. I am standing by that. So if my playing this modded has been a source of like, well, maybe I don't know if I trust the opinion, I fully stand by that. And if you liked Breath of the Wild, you're going to really like this game. If you don't care for Zelda, and you didn't care for Breath of the Wild, it's probably not going to do anything for you, but try it anyway, because it is so much better than Breath of the Wild. But, yeah, there's even so much that I didn't tackle. There's so much that I'm still got to do. And I've been playing this for like 40 hours. Can I find out how long I've been playing through the save here? No, but and since I'm not connected to the internet, my profile doesn't show it. I estimate like 40 hours so far, and I'm about half done with the story. Not half done with the side quest, obviously. But those are my thoughts. Hope you liked the gameplay for what little I was just bumbling around, kind of exploring. I hope you liked the discussion. If you have played this game illicitly like I have, or may not have, tell me your thoughts down below. If you've been watching leaked footage, check in chat. I will ask you spoiler tag comments. If there's things that aren't present in this video, if you want to talk about stuff that's in this video, go for it. And if you're just starting out the game and you come back to this video, I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Yeah, so I'm Ryan. I'm going to be maybe diving into some more Zelda stuff in the future, but I'm definitely going to be hyper-focusing on Xeno for the foreseeable future, because Future Redeemed has driven me insane with what I want to talk about. But this game has also, and I'm going to be playing it for the foreseeable future as well, so that's about it. If you like my content, subscribe and like this video and comment, because it helps it get noticed by other people who would do the same thing, which helps motivate me to do more stuff. Alright, check you guys next time.